Hi, my name is Heather Krychek, and this is a brief example and review of my research this semester for Georgetown College. Title of my research is Investigating the IEP as a Defining Document. This presentation is a culmination of work for teacher leadership for the master's program at Georgetown College. Why did I decide to do this research, and why was it important? I have a dual experience as both a general education teacher and a special education teacher. The main difference that I noticed between these two fields was in access to the individualized education program. As a general education teacher, I had difficulty accessing it. I didn't know where it was. It was frequently stored into the vault room. However, as a special education teacher, it was given to me and reviewed with me and to go over students' services. The big thing I noticed was a pretty large division in general education and special education, and I wanted to figure out what was causing this division by reviewing the document in action. Individualized Education Program, or IEP, as we all know here as teachers, is a process and a product or a document. It's in special education. It's for the individualized student, and it's a legal contract between the district and the state to provision of services. My research questions dealt primarily with the IEP use and function for general education teachers. Furthermore, I studied and looked in the IEP for examples of defining disability and ADHD and how these roles really reflected in middle school interviews. Furthermore, I defined the author-subject narratives in IEP use and function. To narrow down the field of research, I chose to narrow down and study attention deficit hyperactivity disorder or other health impaired. Seeing that there's a very large increase in students with ADHD, I thought this was very necessary. The framework was a qualitative and inductive analysis using grounded theory, which is looking at data and developing a theory, knowledge power, and the association of relationships and actions and how that produces effects. I use line-by-line analysis, priority categorization for the IEP. I use convenience sampling for both the IEP and the interviews, and content and structural analysis. I chose to use 3 middle school interviews through email. They were recorded, transcribed, and 3 IEP documents using the methods I described previously. Furthermore, I did verbal informed consent and gave pseudonyms for the teachers to protect confidentiality. The main categories and themes that I developed were normalization, accommodations, legal authority, time, and power knowledge. Normalization was frequent throughout the document, where they described typical or normal peers. They described the right way or the wrong way according to expectations. Accommodations was the second most occurring word in per word count in the IEP. For teachers' use, however, accommodations, they thought that was only used for testing or what they do for every student. Time was a political resource, the allocation of time for services in the IEP, and the teachers felt like they didn't have enough time to look at the IEP or the accommodations. The omnipotent legal authority communicated through the IEP was often directing the IEP team or the ARC for developing this plan or design for students. However, in teachers, it was more as this authority figure was directing why they access the IEP. It was mandatory, and they often referred to it as they. Power knowledge, students are often use negative or deficit-based words, and teachers are often in positive, provide support work. In my next steps, as we go over here, we'll look at the IEP function, disability and ADHD play in the role of IEPs. As the next steps, I'd really like to increase collaboration among special education and general education. I'd like to reframe disability and special education not as a deficit-based model, but as a capacity on strengths and abilities. Furthermore, applying research to my future education. I hope to explore the field of mind brain education. I hope to use these knowledges to remove barriers between special and general education, and to use this to discuss and post and collaborate with other educators.